Guten Abend Deutsch 2101. Just going to go over some of these things from this PowerPoint that we started on Monday. I'll have this posted in Moodle for you to go through, really just a few things to really cover. And we had done that exercise in class on page 106 of your textbook. And when we look at this slide in particular here, this kind of sets up the basis of the subjunctive, okay, in what we call the present time subjunctive, okay, and that's kind of these what if scenarios. So on the left hand side there we have all of the present tense indicative mood, basically factual statements. Ich bin immer so spät, ich habe keinen Hund, okay, talking about your being and maybe something that you have or do not have. So for the first one, ich bin immer so spät, I'm always late. Okay, if I were to present this in the present time subjunctive, I would start this clause with wenn, excuse me, and basically we're just going to change the form of sein, right, which here it's been, and that's going to be sent to the end of the subjunctive, and it's going to become wäre, okay. And I'll show you a page in the text that also has some charts on this. A previous slide in this PowerPoint presentation shows you exactly how to conjugate for sein. And then the second one, ich habe keinen Hund, and then the way we would set that up in the subjunctive, wenn ich nur einen Hund hätte. Okay, so we can add on to these, and you'll see in the next slide that we show you with the was wäre wenn, okay, what would be if, or what would you do if, or what would you have if, right? And then we're going to introduce the form of the verb, the subjunctive of the form of the verb werden, which would become würde. Okay, but before we do that, let's go through some of these. Ich kann nicht kochen, I can't cook. Wenn ich nur kochen könnte. Okay, ich weiß nicht, wo die Bank ist, wenn ich nur wüsste, wo die Bank ist. Okay, so I don't know where the bank is if I only knew where the bank is. I cannot cook if I only knew how to cook, or if I only could cook. Ich muss meine Hausaufgaben machen, I have to do my homework. Wenn ich nur meine Hausaufgaben nicht machen müsste. Okay, so I have to do homework if I only did not have to do any homework. Meine Freundin will mit mir nicht ins Kino gehen. My girlfriend does not want to go to the movies with me. Wenn meine Freundin nur mit mir ins Kino gehen wollte. If only, right? So that's the nur, that's when we want to introduce that. If only my girlfriend wanted to go to the movies with me. So we have here the forms of sein, haben, können, wissen, müssen, and wollen. These are very, very common verbs. Okay, if we look at this page here, 105, 106 of your ebook, and this is page 116 of your custom textbook, you can see here, these are probably the most common, these 6 verbs right here, the most common subjunctive verbs that you need to know. Sein, haben, werden, gehen, kommen, wissen. And if you look at these, a lot of them, basically, it is almost the simple past form, but we were just adding a couple different elements to it. So if you've become comfortable with the simple past or the imperfect form, basically all we're doing is adding a couple of umlauts and then an ending to these, okay, just as we would in the imperfect. But here, except for, of course, the verb gehen, ginge, gingest, ginge, gingen, ginget, gingen. Okay, these carry over to the next page here, 106, which would be 117 of your ebook. And look at the top here. In general, the subjunctive 2 forms of sein, haben, werden, gehen, kommen, wissen, and the modal verbs, okay, dürfen, können, mögen, müssen, sollen, wollen, are technically the most commonly used verbs in the subjunctive 2. So if you look at the chart on the previous page that we just showed you, and you get to know those quite comfortably, you'll be just fine. pretty much all other verbs, although they do have a subjunctive to form, it's also quite common, especially in conversational German, to use the verb würde plus the infinitive. For example, here, wenn die Touristen genug Zeit hätten, okay, if the tourists had enough time, würden sie eine Rundfahrt im Hamburger Hafen machen. Okay, they would take a nice boat ride or a round-trip boat ride through the Hamburg Bay or harbor. Die 17-jährige Sabine Christiansen würde gerne im Ausland leben. 17-year-old Sabine Christiansen would like to live abroad. Okay, these actually, and what I'm going to do, I'd really like you to also take advantage of these pages in the appendix. These are located in the back of your book, or page starting 385 of your textbook. Here's some more charts that we have. I'm going to scroll down here. Subjunctive, mood, forms of gehen, sein, haben, sehen, arbeiten, können. Okay, so just a couple of repeats there from the earlier pages in the textbook, but also some new ones. Those are very good to know. And all of these verb forms will actually come in handy when you're working on this exercise here. Okay, so basically, looking at the left-hand column, it's the infinitive of the form or of the verb. The second middle column is the Konjunktiv 2. This is the subjunctive form. Okay, so if it's not one of those 6 verbs or one of those modal verbs that are on the list, chances are good it's going to be würde plus the infinitive. Okay, for instance, number 1, hören. Okay, that was not on the list, so it would be würde hören. All right, and then the Konjunktiv der Vergangenheit is basically just the past participle of the verb. Okay, and this is kind of just like if you're comfortable with the present perfect or the perfect or the plusquamperfekt, the past perfect, you'll be just fine with this. This form of the verb does not change the past participle, right? The only thing that changes is the haben or sein. So can you tell me what the Konjunktiv der Vergangenheit, the past time subjunctive of hören would be? It would be hätte gehört. Okay? Sagen, würde sagen, hätte gesagt. Sprechen, würde sprechen, hätte gesprochen. Okay? So forth. Wissen, wüsste. Okay, so here we wouldn't say würde wissen, although it's not incorrect to say that. Okay, but since that's one of those that we need to know. Würde wissen or wüsste. Hätte gewusst. Okay? Going back then to our PowerPoint. Okay, and let's go then. And we set up these because this kind of sets up for the next phase using that würde. Okay, wenn ich nicht immer so spät wäre, ja, dann würde ich nie so viel Arbeit haben, or something like that. Okay, so let's look at this. So the würde plus the infinitive. What would you do? Was würdest du machen, wenn? Okay, was würdest du tun oder was würdest du machen, wenn du nach Europa gehen könntest? What would you do if you could go to Europe? Ich würde den Eiffelturm in Paris sehen. Okay, notice we have würde. Okay, that is the subjunctive form of the verb werden, which is future tense. But here it's subjunctive. I would. Ich würde sehen. I would see. Okay, very simple. Okay. So then, if we look on in the textbook here, let's go to page 107. Okay, so here's a couple of scenarios. Was wäre wenn? Okay. So, was würden Sie machen, wenn Sie nur 5 Stunden in Hamburg hätten? Okay. What would you do if you only had 5 hours in Hamburg? Was würden Sie tun, wenn Sie in Hamburg wohnen würden? Okay, what would you do if you lived in Hamburg? Was würden Sie machen, wenn Sie ein erfolgreicher TV or TV-Moderator, TV-Moderatorin wären? What would you do if you were a successful TV moderator? Was würden Sie machen, wenn Sie jetzt 6 Wochen Ferien hätten? What would you do if you, at the moment, had 6 weeks of vacation? Was würden Sie machen, wenn Sie 10.000 Euro hätten, die Sie in Hamburg ausgeben könnten? What would you do if you had 10,000 euros to spend in Hamburg? Und was würden Sie machen, wenn Sie Herausgeber Ihrer eigenen Zeitung wären? What would you do if you were the publisher or the author of your own newspaper? So these are some things to consider for tomorrow's chat, or today's if you're watching it now. Okay, and then also to go over here, we have the modal verbs. These are pages 112 and 113. Okay, very, very important to know, and this actually will help you with your last workbook assignment for tomorrow. I believe it's 415 or 416. Etwas höflicher. Basically, we're using these modal verbs to speak a little bit more politely, requests, okay? And really the only thing that's different with this is that we're maintaining the umlaut, right? So we're not really changing a whole lot. So the verb almost does not change really at all. You're just adding a T in there. Dürfen, dürfte, right? Können, könnte. Mögen, möchte. Okay? Let's look at these. Müssen, ich müsste, sollen, ich sollte, wollen, ich wollte. So sollen and wollen are the only ones that don't add an umlaut. Everything else does. So when looking down here, was ich gern möchte, okay, number 1, etwas zu essen bestellen. Okay, so something to order to eat. Okay, könnte ich bitte, right? Könnte ich bitte ein Schnitzel haben, okay? Or nicht so schnell sprechen. Könnten Sie vielleicht ein bisschen langsamer sprechen? Könnten Sie bitte nicht so schnell sprechen, okay? So there really isn't much change going on here. We're already familiar with these modal verbs. So we should not have a whole lot of difficulty with these. Okay, so this PowerPoint will then be posted in Moodle. If you have questions, we'll go over this tomorrow. Danke. Tschüss.